Raise your hand if you're from Watts. Raise your hand if you love Watts. All right, it should be everybody here. This is such a happy weekend of celebration, 100 years in this amazing, rising, resilient community. And you know, shortly after I became mayor, I only have 77 days left, but who's counting? 77 days left. It's term limits, it's what happens. We're gonna get a great new mayor, don't worry. We came here because you know those photographs that greet people when they come to Los Angeles for the very first time at the airport? Or maybe it's somebody returning home to Los Angeles. They said, we need to take pictures. And so we took a couple photographs, but I insisted, I said, I want one of them to be Watts Towers. I want folks to come in and to see and to know what the heart of this city is all about. And over the last 9.5 years, to see Watts rise and rise and rise and rise, not just to mark history like we do every year, but to make history. Not only to realize history, but to write it. Whether it's making sure that this is a green community when all the community members came together to go to the state and to successfully apply for making sure there's things like bikes and more trees for shade, electric cars, community gardens, so that the environmental and green movement wasn't just something we saw in other communities, but that we led right here from Watts. That was this community. And we said we needed more health, and we needed to reimagine what health felt like long before a pandemic. And we saw historic investments in new clinics here. That was Watts Rising. And we said we have a different way of doing public safety, and the Community Safety Partnership, which put police officers not for 2 years, but for 5 years in a community, and said half your time needs to be about building relationships. And we brought former members of gangs. We brought folks who have served time and returned as citizens to be part of our gang reduction programs. We saw where there used to be sometimes a killing a month, entire years go by in some of our public housing projects without a single homicide. That was Watts Rising. And we saw young people who said, we want to make sure that Watts is as connected as any community. We were able to make historic investments in education too. So Watts is rising. And there's no better symbol of Watts Rise than these towers. I also want to mark that we lived through history. And we've seen so many amazing musicians come here for the Jazz Festival, one of whom we lost this morning, Pharoah Sanders, somebody who John Coltrane said was perhaps the greatest tenor saxophonist ever, and who played on this ground. He lived here in Los Angeles, and I just want to remember him today because as a jazz musician myself, Pharoah's music is one that has always touched not just those who were fans, but the music community was changed by him as well. As we move through the trauma and the tragedy of the last 3 years, we just want to say we are here. And as Daniel said, it feels really good to be in person, doesn't it? We're not watching something on Zoom. We're not looking at a recording of jazz, of culture, of drum circles somewhere else. It's right here in our community. And I can't stay here till 1 o'clock because I got to pick up a family member a little bit south of here. But I do want to say this publicly about Mike Gibson, our assembly member, because you'll see it at 1 o'clock. But he helped obtain in your budget. I love it when we always say, well, we've got a surplus. All the tax dollars are yours. So he's a good representative who knew in a surplus that we had at the state level, he's bringing $4 million here to renovate and to invest right here in this Cultural and Arts Center. And I want to thank him publicly and his staff publicly. Right there she is. You'll see a lot of her. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 4 million times thank you. As the city steps up to make sure we're matching that. Thank you to LACMA and all the partners too. I love our museums, but I also love our community-based art. And Rosie Lee, you have embodied what that means. And I just want to say publicly while I'm still mayor, that this is an angel in the city of angels. Someone who has stood forward and stepped up, and in the toughest of times, always been there to make sure the community's voice leads from the front. Not an afterthought, but from the very beginning. So we love you for that. Thank you. I know you've got better things to do than to listen to mayors drone on. You've got music to listen to, but I just wanted to thank you for the honor of the last 9.5 years. Somebody said, well, you won't even be around. I said, no, I'll be around. I just won't have title as mayor. I'll have a more dangerous title, constituent. So I'm going to be like you, consuming Los Angeles, celebrating Los Angeles, investing in Los Angeles. We love you, Watts, and know that I will be there every step to make sure that Watts continues to rise and that the world knows that Watts is one of the great cultural centers of this planet. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, thank you. And just so he won't forget us, we're going to give him something to put on his walls. Daniel, we'd like to present